Welcome back everybody. Today I have to tell you about the best gacha patch that I have ever seen. No, I am not exaggerating here or even kind of joking. It's really that good. Without further ado though, let's get into ZenlessZoneZero's 2.0 patch and everything that you might have missed from the live stream. First and foremost, we are introduced to a new locale and location where they introduce details, and we're going to be told new information about ZenlessZoneZero 2.0. They do tell us about Xuan, who is a Void Hunter level investigator whose job it is to now teach us how to use our newfound power, minor spoiler, apologies, at the Yunkai Summit. After this, we are introduced to a preview video of everything to expect from 2.0, and alongside new locations, environments, and honestly some cool looking NPCs, we're introduced to new enemy types, Fufu, Yixuan, and Panda, and also introduced to new locations that we'll likely see, including the previously mentioned Yunkai Summit. Yixuan is then showcased in terms of her gameplay, ultimate, and what she has to offer through her bird, and truthfully, this character looks absolutely crazy in terms of kit. Next, we see Xuan New with new outfits, which hopefully we will receive. Spoiler alert again. Xuan is then introduced with a whole separate outfit. Following this, we're then shown Fufu and some new enemies that she may have to encounter, all of whom are in white outfits. Next, we then see Fufu use her fireball and start sliding around with it, dealing fire damage. And to end things off, we see Panda jumping on the enemies, cooking food with his pan, and beating up enemies all simultaneously. Then we're shown a preview of the story in 2.0. We as Faithin also somehow get infected alongside Xuan, and we also have to perform an exorcism of some sort, all while dealing with and learning how to use our powers. Alongside this, they did introduce a couple of details about Xuan, including an animated short film and a character teaser coming soon for her. But then we were finally introduced to Fufu, who of course is the young Tiger Thirin and also the elder sister of the temple. Following this, we were also introduced to a number of new characters and new appearances, including a blonde bunny girl, a new redhead, and a third additional character who also has pigtails. Trigger was then shown as well, indicating that Obol Squad will be making a return in season 2, but we were also teased to a new group, potentially in the form of a described Spook Shack faction / group. But then we moved forward to we will have to manage Suibin Temple. Now, to be clear, this isn't your typical average event, as this does feel like the main focus of especially 2.0, where you will have to sell goods to maintain and upgrade the temple. This does include additional activities, including sending Bangboos on expeditions, developing new products, and then selling said products. But following this, they did include much more details about the activities, including each Bangboo having a specific benefit, and us potentially being able to get additional resources or even more Bangboo copies from a new Boo Box. But of course, we'll also unlock new rewards while doing so too. Then we were introduced to a new set of explorative techniques / abilities that we can use, with things like disintegration letting us destroy things, and insight letting us track down objects after unlocking clues. Now, to be clear, these 3 current abilities that we were shown in exploration do make the game feel more explorative. They did also announce that we would be able to choose which character could accompany us in the hollow to do said exploring. Next, they did want to assure players that you wouldn't lose too much if you decided to use one character or another. So if you decided to explore with someone in the hollow and they ended up losing health, you are able to swap out agents, so don't worry too much. Next, they did introduce a new gameplay / combat mechanic, where now this Miasma Corruption concept will both harm and help us. To be clear, they did first showcase the fact that all agents can take 1 instance of damage, regardless if they're on field or not, if you accumulate too much miasma on ourselves. But in addition to this, they also mentioned that we can use the miasma to our advantage, giving us a shield, dispelling enemy buffs, or gaining other gameplay advantages. Now, to be clear, they did also mention that miasma nodes may obstruct us or cause us to need to explore more, but overall, the game just feels way more explorative as opposed to just endless instances of running to and from locations, talking to NPCs with dialogue that doesn't matter. All of this was on top of the revelation that we now have a new minimap. This map is very comprehensive and convenient, and to keep things short, we can now use EOS to read maps and gain more information, which will then allow us to keep track of where we are much easier and also allow us to teleport to. After this, we were shown the first redemption code, which you can also insert now, which is ZZZ Anniversary, but then we were shown the combat section. We started with Xuan, and she is an S-rank Auric Ink character who is also of the Rupture category, and of course these are 2 new concepts that we haven't seen on any other agent thus far. To be clear though, they did break down Rupture agents specifically, and they did mention that they are more focused on a split between survivability and DPS, while also ignoring defense to deal damage. Instead, these characters rely on sheer force, and sheer force ignores an enemy's defense, while also converting a portion of their attack directly into into sheer force. Additionally, Xuan does appear to gain value from health while also having a unique adrenaline mechanic. But in essence, Xuan focuses a lot on using her ultimate, converting points that she gains to then enhance and unload damage against the enemies. She definitely fits the role of a DPS, with her also being able to use her EX special and other attacks to counter or punish enemies when they attack her. To add to this, she does also appear to have somewhat of a basic attack gathering enemies together mechanic and can then release this to deal more damage. They did also mention things like adrenaline, and for what we initially know about adrenaline, it does feel somewhat similar to Jane's, where she does gain bonuses from having it, and of course with this, dodging will also generate adrenaline, which Xuan can then use for her other abilities. Now interestingly, with her dodge, she can also latch onto her bird friend and fly around the arena, but following this, she can also pair this alongside a basic attack to attack enemies straight after flying. Now it is worth mentioning that in terms of how they described how to play her, they did mention that she is a bit focused on her EX special and using her ultimate in a cyclical pattern so that you can generate resources to then unload them. But more interestingly than all this is actually the fact that she distributes health evenly amongst allies while also having two separate ultimates with a priority system in terms of which will be used first. They did announce that old agents will be changed to accommodate for rupture characters in the future, and this means that their additional abilities will be changed so that they will be able to be paired alongside characters like Xuan, with that including characters like Kaleda and Astra, to name a few of the new characters that will have their additional ability changed, and this is a massively welcome change that I sincerely applaud ZenlessZoneZero for. Next, we were introduced to Panda, and in short, it does appear as though he focuses on quick assisting, providing sheer force to his allies when swapping, buffing rupture specific agents, and being good for Xuan specifically. Next, as we saw his chain attack and ultimate, they both looked really cool, but an interesting detail about the ultimate is that he does restore health to the team and continuously heals them over a period of time, which makes him the first A rank in the game that can do so. Fufu was then introduced as her having a popcorn pot-esque pet that strikes and knocks back enemies, and a special trait about the pet is that it will stay on field just like Lucy's boars. However, after hitting a certain point, the popcorn pot will attack enemies and unleash special abilities, as she does also provide buffs to the team while also having one of the funniest looking attack combos I've ever seen. That's not even the coolest looking ability she has, however, as she does have the ability to swing around her pot, but then if we take a look at her dash attack, she can actually endlessly spin, which is also very cute too. Next, in regards to her dash attack specifically, it does also allow her to consume a new mechanic potentially that she has known as momentum, and once she comes in contact with other enemies, she gains might while also crashing into them. Now, after dealing enough damage, if she has enough might, which I'm not super familiar with right now, she does gain the ability to swap out to other characters, but still continue spinning even though she's not the one on field directly. In short though, the way that they described the player was to EX special, swap to another agent so that her popcorn pet can begin buffing the team, but given that she was described to be a fire stun character, this makes sense as she is likely more focused on buffing the team and stunning as opposed to staying on the field for too long. Next, they did announce that when there is an attack or rupture agent on field, they've introduced a new mechanic so that decibels will be increased after using their ultimate, whereas for other characters they gain things like assist points or additional energy regen depending on the class. But then we were shown new gameplay of Hollow Zero, where both Xuan and Fufu have new kits. Next, we saw the new Bangboo Bellion, who is a funny looking stone ball, and although this cute Bangboo could bounce between enemies, what was honestly more exciting was the signal search details for this version. Now, in terms of what you need to focus on, the first half is the Xuan banner, and Panda will be on her banner too. To be clear though, Panda is physical defense, whereas Xuan again is an Auric Ink Rupture character, but Fufu is the phase 2 character, with her being a fire stun character. Now, for those of you that missed her, you will also be excited to know that Astriel is being rerun in the first half, and with the second half, Caesar is also being rerun, making this one of the best versions in terms of support characters that we've ever seen. After this, we saw more details of Xuan's skin, with there being a limited deal, but of the footage that we saw with her in this outfit, honestly, it looks absolutely ridiculous. And they described one of the coolest new events that I've ever seen. The event I'm talking about specifically is Gravity Cinema, and with this, you can now watch movies with friends, but more importantly, you can use this to go on interactive dates with your favorite character in ZenlessZoneZero. Now, to be clear, this does feel extremely intimate and personal, with there being things like timers and even a like/dislike bar depending on how you choose your dialogue options with them. It is important to note that this is going to be a permanent game mode in the future, which I'm personally super excited for. Next, we were then introduced to a mech event with Grace and Anton, and this is easily one of the coolest events that we've ever seen. Unlike in the past where they've dabbled with the idea of giving EOS or some Bangboo's combat abilities, now we have a mech that is completely piloted by EOS and does have a moveset similar to what you'd expect of an agent in normal ZenlessZoneZero. Now, if the fighting from this event wasn't enough, there is an endless game mode for you to compete for a high score if you really enjoy the gameplay of this mech event. But then we were shown another event with Fufu, who reveals that we then have another HIA VR event. It is really cool that we will be able to test the new agents without technically needing to have them in this activity, but of course this is on top of all the added rewards that we will be receiving just for completing this event. After this, they did announce a sightseeing guide in 2.0 so that we can familiarize ourselves with the area, but then they announced an update to the Hollow Zero as well. To be clear, this is where we saw more details about the red hair pigtail character and some new additions to the Hollow Zero activity, which actually will change the way that you play the mode. This includes a new piece of gear which will allow you to trigger another character's quick assist but won't actually swap the character on field, and this makes sense given what they mentioned in the previous dev notes, where they do want you to have more characters on field but not necessarily punish you for wanting to play a main DPS type playstyle. To be clear though, they did say that this tag assist will be treated as an aftershock and that now every character can technically activate the aftershock effect. But what's really interesting about this is that this sort of combat change, though tested currently in Lost Void, is really exciting for the future of Zenless, as they aren't afraid to necessarily break the molds that they've already created, and this could lead to some interesting changes in the future if some characters need it. Next, they then showed two mobile gears that have new effects, and both of these look absolutely insane. They then also mentioned that although in the past there were some tactical upgrades that were limited to one per squad, now every single character can equip their own tactical prism, and this is really cool honestly, especially if you're someone that likes playing Lost Void weekly. They did add additional enhancement paths for each character, but more important than any of these was that they actually changed old Lost Void kits for old characters so that they could be better in Lost Void specifically. But beyond this, they also added new monsters, events, and a new boss enemy as the final target of Area 3. Next, they did announce that completing the new challenges and events will provide double the value after completing investigation for the first time every week, but something that I do think was needed a lot in Zenless is actually a rotating bonus for agent clears, meaning that you could actually clear through the weekly quicker, assuming that you do play the new characters and you actually add some diversity into the teams that you use for your weekly missions. Following this though, they did announce that Shield Defense and Deadly Assault will still be rotating with new enemies being added, but as a quick aside, the new fight and tease that we saw looked absolutely insane. After this, they did announce a new Notorious Hunt, a routine cleanup stage, and a new pair of disc drive sets, with each Yuan's being one that gives HP percent, suggesting that she of course will actually need it. But in addition to this set also increases crit rate up to 12% while also increasing sheer damage by 10%. The second disc drive set is Fufu's, and this one increases the days of general attacks by 6%. Now, to be clear, when the equipper is a stunner with this set and when they use an EX special or chain, the crit damage of all allies will then increase by 15%, and when the equipper's crit rate is more than or equal to 50%, this bonus further increases to 30% total and is a fantastic disc drive, especially for Fufu, and I for one am extremely excited for when this drops. Next, they did announce specific W engines for the Rupture characters too, so that they don't feel left out, but in addition to this, they added a Rupture A rank in the battle pass as well. As a final message, they did announce a new iteration of battle trials coming in 2.1, but following this were the golden proxy rewards, which of course is the year in review, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. Now, it is worth mentioning that again, this is a look back on the entire year, but if you do participate in this event, from what I understand, you will get a commemorative item for participating. Next, they did announce the 3-timesing of rewards for material and disk drive farming as opposed to 2 like before, but then we finally got details about the anniversary rewards. First, in 2.0, we are getting 30 free pulls and even more rewards, and this includes things like 1600 polys and new avatar and an exclusive title. Following this, they showed the check-in event for 20 pulls and the Bangboo login event too, but to top this whole section off, they also announced a new special check-in event starting at 10 AM today, May, with us being given 480 free polychromes. But then they did announce that all proxies will be given both Belle and Wise's outfits in this new area, unlocked after doing the main story. They did announce a new advanced screening feature so that you can do the main story even if you're far behind. But then guys, we were given one of the most exciting details of all, a free standard S rank and a free standard S rank W engine of your choice with this anniversary. Now to be clear, they did announce that they had crises and issues in the past, but they followed this up with the announcement that they are buffing Ellen. No, this is not a joke. No, this is not a misinterpretation or some sort of insinuation. They are implementing the Lost Void kit to Ellen while also changing and buffing her kit too. Now she works with any stunners or anyone from her faction instead, and this is incredible news for anyone that really enjoys playing Ellen. Now this should go without saying, but this precedent is extremely welcome and hopeful, as this means that any character in the past may be able to change in the future. Now in addition to this, they did announce that every top-up is being reset in 2.0, and alongside this they added new optimizations to the game, including a new interface, the map details, and a long-awaited improvement to the scrolling system so that you can actually get through the endless number of maps faster. To do so, they implemented a 3x3 grid system instead of a 1x1 scrolling through the widescreen, but then they also gave additional details about how the combat and exploration areas will be more integrated and interconnected. However, with this, they did caution that they might have to change some of the keybinds for version 2.0, but as they kind of mentioned with everything in this section and more, although they will be making changes, they are still allowing you to go back to your original settings if that was something that you were comfortable with. Now following this, they did also announce custom keybinds and a change to the mission system as well, with it being changed drastically. Now you can sort through many of the agent or mission types so that you can choose which quests you actually want to complete. They've also added a mission focus button and of course the previous advanced screen feature if you're behind in the story. They did detail that you need to at least have completed season 1 chapter 2 before you can then unlock the skip, but once you've reached a certain point in season 2 you can always go back, just so you're aware. Next, they did also optimize some huge things in terms of your daily gameplay too, with there no longer being a need for observation data when you're trying to level up your account. Additionally, they did introduce things like better connection controls for controllers, but none of this was nearly as appreciated as the energy being increased in farming stages finally. And with this, you can now actually clear through enemies or clear through the stage easier, and it doesn't feel like you have to waste additional time to try and use your EX special on Miyabi and one-shot the entire stage. They did also mention that immersive mode will now automatically be turned on so that you won't automatically get interrupted by this overnight feature. But following this, they also optimized the expert challenge and notorious modes, with them pinning and categorizing modes at the top so it makes more sense when you're farming one specific thing. They did mention that they're compressing and reducing the overall size of the client. They did also announce a pre-register event, which you can actually scan the code on screen for right now if you want to receive these rewards. Now with this, they also did mention that if you invite friends, you can get bonuses too, including things like iPhones, Ellen figures, iPads, etc. But of course, that is a specific raffle. After this, they did mention that the returning web event is being added again. But then we were shown the Operation Yum collaboration, and with this, the Ambi and Bernice animation looked absolutely fantastic, and truthfully, I do need these outfits that they showed, as both Ambi and Bernice looked absolutely fantastic. Next, they showed us featured merchandise and unlockables in game if you participate in the collaboration, and this included things like a limited edition name card and a merch bundle just by participating. Following this, we saw Crispy Boo, who definitely looks both tasty and cute, but of course, they didn't leave this as an IRL exclusive event, as this is also something that we'll be participating in game too. But after this, they did also provide some details about DripFest 2025. They officially announced that ZenlessZoneZero will be releasing on Xbox with 2.0 alongside some additional specific rewards for its platform too. And as a surprise, they will also be at Anime Expo in LA later this year. After this, we did hear some EPs for both Xuan and Fufu for 2.0, and to describe each, Xuan's is pretty calm and Fufu's is much louder and exciting. Now, they did mention that again, 2.0 was their bold attempt at something new, and June 6th is ZenlessZoneZero's release date. But guys, truth be told, this is honestly one of the most jam-packed and incredible patches that I've ever seen. I know that this is the start of a new version, and it's also tied with the anniversary of ZenlessZoneZero, but honestly, all the details that they talked about really point towards the fact that ZenlessZoneZero is listening, they want to improve, and they want to continue this relationship of trust between consumer and developer. And I, for one, am honestly really happy with the direction that they're taking. That's going to be it for today though, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed and learned something. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Man, the devs cooked. Good night.